Kayla said I was too emotional, too needy, and too much of a burden. So, she left me high and dry when I needed her most, but what she didn't realize was, I wasn't weak. I was just about to show her that I was stronger than she ever thought. My name is Tasha Owens, and I'm 35 years old. I've lived in this small town in Ohio my whole life. It's quiet, peaceful, and for the longest time, I thought my life was as perfect as it could get. But I wasn't prepared for what would come next, the betrayal that would turn my world upside down. Kayla was my best friend. We'd known each other since high school. Back then, we were inseparable, always together, always sharing everything. We talked about our dreams, our fears, our crushes. We made each other promises, like best friends do. No matter what happens, we'll always have each other's backs. Those words meant everything to me, and I believed them with all my heart. But life, as it always does, changed things. I went to college, got a job, and eventually started a family. Kayla did too. We grew up, but somehow, we always found time to stay close. I'd visit her in the evenings, or we'd catch up over coffee. It wasn't perfect, but we made it work. And when things got tough, she was always the one I turned to. Until the moment I needed her most. It started subtly at first. Small changes in Kayla's behavior that I didn't want to believe. She would cancel our plans last minute, then tell me she was just too busy with life. At first, I understood. We were both getting older, and life had a way of throwing curveballs at us. But then, something else started happening. She stopped returning my calls. Her texts were short, practically cold. She was slipping away, and I was too blind to see it. The real blow came when my world fell apart. It was one of those moments where everything goes wrong at once. My boyfriend of 5 years, Michael, broke up with me suddenly. He said he was in a different place, and I was left standing in the wreckage of what I thought was a stable relationship. To make things worse, my job was downsized. I felt like I was losing everything. It was a dark time, and I needed my best friend. I reached out to Kayla, thinking she'd be there to pick me up like she always had. But this time, she wasn't. I called her. No answer. I texted her, telling her how badly I was struggling, hoping she'd at least acknowledge me. Hey, I really need to talk. Can we meet up? But the response I got wasn't the one I expected. It was curt, distant. Sorry, I'm really busy this weekend. I'll try to call you later. I waited. And waited. But she never called. It wasn't just the lack of contact. It was the way it felt, the complete disregard for what I was going through. I couldn't understand it. Kayla was the one person I thought would never leave me when things got tough. The one person I thought would always be there. That was the moment the betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't just hurt by her actions, I was devastated. The person who knew my deepest fears, my darkest secrets, was gone. She wasn't there when I needed her most. And that's when I realized, she was never going to be the same friend again. If you've ever been abandoned by someone you thought you could count on, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been left in your darkest hour? Drop a comment below and let me know. Where are you watching from? Let's connect and share these stories together. And if you want to see how I handled this betrayal, hit that subscribe button and like this video so you don't miss the rest of my journey. I was a broken woman, at least, that's what I thought. But the more I cried, the more I realized something, I wasn't weak. I was stronger than she could ever imagine. At first, I couldn't let go of the pain. I spent days lying in bed, letting the sadness take over. I felt sorry for myself. I tried calling Kayla again, sending long texts, trying to piece together what had gone wrong. But every time I reached out, it felt like she was slipping further away. But then, something started to change in me. One evening, after yet another failed attempt to reach Kayla, I sat in front of the mirror and stared at myself. I was exhausted from crying, drained from all the worrying, and I felt like I was losing myself. But then I asked myself a question I hadn't asked in a long time. What would happen if I stopped waiting for her to save me? For the first time, I saw the answer clearly. I would save myself. I spent the next few weeks focusing on me. I started going to therapy, something I had never done before. It wasn't easy. Talking about everything, the breakup, losing my job, and losing Kayla, was hard. But with each session, I began to feel lighter. The weight I had been carrying started to shift, and I felt a glimmer of strength I hadn't realized was there. I took long walks to clear my mind. I started reading again, something I used to love. I began to take care of myself in ways I had neglected for years. But the most important thing I did was realize that Kayla's betrayal didn't define me. It didn't mean I was weak or unworthy of love. It meant I was human, and I was allowed to feel hurt, but I was also allowed to heal. I began to understand that the fear of abandonment that had always plagued me wasn't a weakness, it was a reminder of how much I had to offer. My capacity to love, to care for others, was a gift, not a flaw. And if Kayla couldn't see that, then I was better off without her in my life. I wasn't broken. I was whole. And I wasn't going to wait for someone who didn't appreciate me to come back into my life. Have you ever had to find your strength after someone left you in your weakest moment? How did you heal? Share your story with me in the comments below. Let's support each other. And if this message resonates with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe. This story is just getting started. When Kayla reached out again, I could feel her desperation through the screen. She wanted me back, but this time, I was the one in control. It wasn't long before Kayla reached out again. She sent me a text one night, saying, "Tasha, I know I've hurt you. Please, let's talk. I've been so wrong." At that moment, I felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to slam the phone down and ignore her for good. But another part of me, one that had been through so much and come out stronger, knew I needed to face this. I needed to hear what she had to say. But I wasn't the same person who had once depended on her. This time, I was in control. And I wasn't going to let her apologize her way back into my life without understanding the damage she had caused. We agreed to meet at a cafe in town, the place we used to go after high school. As I walked into that cafe, I felt a calmness I hadn't expected. Kayla was sitting at a corner table, looking nervous and uncertain, her usual confidence replaced by guilt. She immediately started apologizing, saying she had been going through her own struggles. She told me she had pushed me away because she didn't know how to help me. She kept talking about how much she regretted her actions, how she missed our friendship. But I wasn't listening to the same old excuses anymore. I let her talk, but in my mind, I was already calculating my next words. I wasn't going to fall for this. I waited until she was done, and then, calmly, I spoke. "Kayla, I hear what you're saying, but you don't get to walk back into my life like nothing happened. You abandoned me. You left me when I needed you most. I thought you were my friend, but friends don't do that. I don't need you to apologize. I need you to understand that I've moved on. I've grown. And I'm better off without you." Does this story hit home for you? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself and demand respect from someone who hurt you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see how this story unfolds, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Kayla didn't just want to apologize. She wanted back into my life. But what she didn't understand was that she wasn't the one who controlled this anymore, I was. Kayla's face fell. She was taken aback by my response. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the fear that I was truly gone from her life. She pleaded with me, asking for a second chance, asking if we could start over. But the old Tasha, the one who would have begged for her forgiveness, was gone. "I'm sorry, but that's not enough," I said, standing up to leave. "I can't just forget what you did. And I won't keep waiting for you to come back when it's convenient for you. Goodbye, Kayla." I walked away, not looking back. For the first time, I felt truly free. That night, I thought about how far I'd come. I hadn't just survived the betrayal, I had thrived. Kayla thought she could walk away from me and have me beg for her to come back. But she was wrong. I wasn't the same person anymore. In the days that followed, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. I was no longer consumed by the pain of the past. I had learned to let go. Kayla's absence no longer felt like a void. I had filled it with strength, self-love, and the realization that I could stand on my own. But then, I received another message from her. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a voice message. Her voice was shaky, almost pleading. I really need to talk, Tasha. I know I messed up, and I just want to explain. Please, can we meet again? I miss our friendship. It was almost like she was trying to manipulate me back into her life. The message came at a time when I had finally accepted that I didn't need her. So why was she reaching out again? I couldn't help but wonder, was this genuine regret, or was she just trying to salvage something that was never hers to fix? I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sat quietly, reflecting on everything that had happened. And that's when I realized something else. Kayla's betrayal had been her way of revealing her true character. She wasn't the friend I thought she was. She was someone who had put her own needs above mine, someone who thought I would always be there, no matter how badly she treated me. It hurt to admit, but I understood. I understood that she wasn't going to change. She would continue to come back when she was ready, when it was convenient for her. But I wasn't the person she left behind anymore. I wasn't someone who would let her walk all over me. I knew I had to let her go completely, no more second chances. Have you ever been in a situation where someone came back into your life after betraying you? Did you give them a second chance, or did you choose to move on? What was the tipping point for you? It wasn't just about saying goodbye to Kayla. It was about saying goodbye to the version of myself who allowed people to walk all over her. I was done with being a doormat. I was done being the victim. As I walked away from Kayla that day, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't carrying the burden of her betrayal anymore. I wasn't holding on to a friendship that was toxic. And I wasn't waiting for someone who had already shown me who they were. Kayla had made her choice. She had shown me exactly how little she valued me, and I couldn't keep chasing after something that was never meant to last. But even though I had made the decision to let go, the process wasn't as simple as walking away. It took time. It took deep reflection. I had to look at the pieces of myself I had given to her over the years and learn to reclaim them. I realized that by holding on to her, I was holding on to a version of myself that wasn't true. I had let her define my worth. But that was over. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel empty. I didn't feel like I needed Kayla to complete me. I had filled that void with a newfound sense of independence. I had learned to trust myself again, to love myself in a way that I hadn't done in years. I started doing things for myself, things I had neglected for so long. I signed up for a painting class I had always wanted to take. I joined a women's support group where I could finally talk about everything I'd gone through without fear of judgment. I started traveling, going on weekend trips to places I'd never been before. It was like I had rediscovered the person I had been before Kayla had come into my life. And every step I took away from Kayla was a step closer to the person I was meant to be. I didn't need her. I didn't need anyone to validate me. I had already found the strength I needed within myself. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Every day felt like a victory. I was no longer defined by the people who had abandoned me. I was defined by my own choices, by my own strength. When was the last time you did something just for you, without worrying about what anyone else thought? What did you learn about yourself in that moment? The final chapter of this story wasn't just about cutting ties with Kayla. It was about cutting ties with the past version of myself that allowed others to control her. I was finally free. A few months had passed since I last saw Kayla, and life had started to feel like it was falling into place. I was doing better, both emotionally and mentally. But something kept nagging at me. It wasn't Kayla's absence, it was the idea that maybe I hadn't fully closed the door on our friendship. There was a lingering question in the back of my mind. What if I hadn't done enough? What if I didn't fight hard enough for our friendship? So, one last time, I reached out to her. I needed closure for myself. I couldn't let this chapter stay open forever, wondering what could have been. I wasn't doing it for Kayla, I was doing it for me. I texted her, I think we need to talk one last time. This is the final conversation. I need to move on, and I think you do too. She agreed to meet, and when we sat down together, I could see the same guilt in her eyes, but this time, it didn't affect me the way it used to. I had already moved on. I was no longer emotionally attached to the person sitting across from me. I could see her for who she really was. I don't hate you, Kayla, I said, my voice steady. But I can't keep letting you back into my life. I've learned that I'm enough on my own. I'm not defined by your actions anymore. There was no more anger in my voice, just clarity. I had reached the point where I could truly let go. Kayla nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. But I didn't feel the need to console her anymore. The healing had already happened on my end. When we said goodbye, I knew I was walking away from something that had once meant everything to me. But I wasn't walking away from defeat, I was walking away from the past. And for the first time, I could say it with complete certainty, I was free. How do you find closure after a painful situation? Is it through confrontation, forgiveness, or something else? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how you found your own closure. As I walked away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. Not just from Kayla, but from the past. I had learned that my strength doesn't come from holding on to old relationships, but from letting go of the things that no longer serve me. But I know I'm not alone in this. If you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever faced the pain of losing someone you thought you could trust, I want to hear from you. What did you do when you reached your breaking point? How did you find your strength to move on? Drop a comment below and share your story with me. And if you're ready to take back your power, to stop letting anyone control your happiness, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe so you can join me on this journey of healing, empowerment, and personal growth. You are stronger than you think. Let's rise together.